Hey everyone, my name is JJ Paulson. I'm a student entrepreneur and co-founder of the tech startup Perch. I want to invite you for coffee and conversation on our weekly series, Coffee Talks. We're here to showcase the heartbeat of Gainesville's entrepreneurial spirit. I want to give a quick thank you as this series is made possible by Afternoon Roasting and Seven Ashes Productions. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and let's explore the exciting world of entrepreneurship together. Now let's meet this week's guest. Yeah, so JJ Paulson, I'm a current UF student, co-founder of Perch, like Kwong mentioned. Excited to be here again to host another one of these. And I'm joined here by Guy Nativ. He is co-founder of a company called Renova. So Guy, I'm gonna turn it over to you, share a little bit about yourself and what Renova is.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm the co-founder of Renova. I take the role of like a CFO slash COO of the company, so taking care of the business side as well as the finances. And Renova, essentially, what we are today, it changed a lot over the course of our lifetime, but Renova today is essentially a service that we help small businesses create 3D models of their furniture. So we notice a huge gap in the industry where a lot of these huge furniture producers and stores are able to create these beautiful 3D models and display them, which there are statistics that show that improves conversion rates, order sizes, and customer satisfaction. And we found a way to essentially help small businesses not only create these 3D models, but also implement them in a way that customers can interact with the models, see how it looks like in the context of the room for a very cheap price.
That's great. I know we've talked about Renova before. The first time you shared it with me, probably about 8 or 9 months ago now, you guys were focusing more on interior design. Can you kind of talk about, what the thought process was when you initially went down that path, and then what brought you to the epiphany of, we need to make a pivot and shift more toward the small business?
Right. So, look, I think this is like a common mistake that a lot of founders make, is that they go into an industry wanting to change the entire industry.
Totally.
They don't choose like one specific problem that they really need to focus on to break into that industry. It's like Amazon started by selling books. They didn't start by being this huge company that sells everything and has this huge distribution center. So we started the same way. The original founder, his name is Nathan, and he originally wanted Renova to be this huge marketplace of furniture that is able to be interactive with everybody, with this huge community that people could share how their rooms look and kind of interact with each other's rooms. And we essentially pivoted that because there's actually like a story about this, but we started with this competition at the University of Buffalo. It's called the Panaski Pitch Competition or the Panaski Competition, and we made it to the semifinals. And and it's to win like funding for the project.
Right.
And we got dropped at the semifinals, and the main concern was that was the problem of the chicken or the egg, right? A chicken and the egg, whichever comes first. How are we going to bring not only users but also partners to the platform? So building this platform from the ground up we're going to have to bring both users and partners at the same time, which is very hard. So we had to pivot and think of a way to bring either partners or users first by providing them value. And we chose to go in the small business route because we saw a gap there. So we saw that that we could provide value to small businesses by giving them a cheap option to improve their conversion rates, customer satisfaction, and their e-commerce platform. And then later on we can integrate it into our own in-house platform, where users would be able to scan the room very quickly with their phone, and interact with these partners and see how furniture looks and personalize it to a much greater extent.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think kind of what you spoke about before, I think almost every entrepreneur can relate to at the start wanting to solve, the massive big picture problem rather than niching down and finding one specific customer that you can help out.
Right.
I know we went through that at Perch, the initial idea was, being an anytime, any place parking platform, but we eventually niched down to event parking for college football, and that's where we found
Right.
our success.
Right.
So
Sorry, I actually, you remember the conversation that we had like outside of that convention?
I do.
So that is actually a main reason that we're focusing on small businesses as well. So we were initially going to like target like all partners, like all sort of furniture companies, but then we started to like niche down to our like geographical locations because of the conversation that we had.
It's awesome. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear us help out like that.
Yeah.
But so, in the current state you're in, because I know you said other companies kind of do the same thing. What's really the difference between what Renova offers and maybe what competitors offer? Is it purely like a price point thing, or I'll let you kind of.
Right. So it's really ease of use and pricing. So a lot of these bigger companies can pay for these expensive 3D scanning equipment, and we actually were the only equipment that you need to scan the furniture is an iPhone Pro.
Okay.
So and pretty much like anybody can find someone with an iPhone Pro, just like a one-time thing. So you just use iPhone Pro. You scan using the LiDAR sensor around the furniture, around the product, and it takes about 10 minutes for everything max for every piece of furniture. It gives you a really nice detailed image of it, and then our solution not only creates that 3D model, but it also helps you implement it into your website. So we created an API that plugs into your website really quickly and really easily, and lets you kind of manipulate what furniture you want to show on which site, on which web page, and then through that API you can also see how the furniture looks like in the context of your room, and all that could be done very cheaply. We're starting off with very cheap pricing because we want to just bring in as many partners as we can onto the platform.
Totally. Now I know you kind of walked through the process of scanning items, and there's an API plugin that's going to happen. What is like the user experience? So say I'm a small business and I come to you and I'm like, hey, I want to implement Renova. All that API stuff, is that something that you handle on your end? Like your developer works one-on-one with the business to help them do that stuff? Or is it very much where you're just selling like a product, or you're selling like access to use your scanner?
So so let me give you like how this is going to look like from the user perspective and the partner perspective. So as a user, as a shopper on one of these websites, you essentially want to go into the website and you just want to see the product. You're going to scroll through the images that are usually there at a product page, and then on the last kind of like product image, it'll show the 3D model of the product. So you're going to be able to interact with it, see how it looks like in your room, and it's all going to be like on the website. So we want to make this very concise and easy to use for the users. And then for the partner, the way that it's going to look is you're going to download an app on your phone. We're going to work out some sort of agreement on a monthly payment. And that's going to be based on how many products you want to scan, how many products you want to have on our servers. And then you're going to scan each product. It's going to take about 5-10 minutes per product. And then we're going to take care of uploading it into our API. The only part that we're not so sure yet is the way we're going to implement it into the website. But the website implementation should be easy because it's just like a plug-in API. But we're taking care of everything else except for just putting it onto the actual product page.
Okay, so Renova itself is purely just going to be the tool that people use to implement it. You're not going to scan these products and then have them listed on your website as well.
So that's the second. In the future, we do want to do that. So in the future, we want to be a marketplace as well.
Okay.
We want to help our partners gain more audience, more of an audience, more buyers by creating our own in-house marketplace. By using everybody's pre-existing 3D models, we'd be able to just create this in-house, create this marketplace that the users of Renova that already have the app downloaded because they wanted to see how their furniture looks like, they're going to be able to browse other small businesses and buy off of them as well.
Okay. Yeah, I know when we last spoke, you said that you guys were wrapping up a demo. Have you had any chance to actually work with any partners or small businesses directly?
So not with small businesses yet, but we do have a demo, and we have like the closed beta out right now. So like the
Okay.
features are working, and the API is being developed right now. We have an intern that's working with AWS, and we're creating. It's in the works, but it's almost done. So
Okay.
yeah.
And then definitely, one aspect I want to touch on is you are a current student at UF,
Right.
trying to run a startup, which in its own is a very,
Right.
daunting task. How have you found the ability to balance between the two?
Right.
Taking full-time classes at university while also devoting majority of your time to building a startup, especially when you're in a space, you're in a time where you're about to really try to launch and see if you can find that product market fit.
Right.
How have you been able to find the balance between the two?
Right. Balance is definitely something I'm still struggling with
Right.
when it comes to running the business, because it's very inconsistent. Some weeks you have 20 hours, 30 hours. Some weeks you have like two hours. So
Totally.
it's like it really depends on my schedule. But I just the way that I try to do it is I do try to plan certain times of the day where I am working on Renova. But it's very challenging. I think the best piece of advice is just like to focus on actually scheduling in time for it, and then also setting tasks, very specific tasks that you have to work on. So then when you actually have time to work, you know exactly what you're going to do, and you're not just sitting in front of your computer not knowing what to do. And that's like a huge problem for founders, is that it's hard to know what's the next step.
Yeah.
So you kind of like it's very important to sit as a team, if you have a team, and to designate like very specific tasks that you have to work on.
Well, speaking of next steps, I'll ask you, where do you envision the next steps for Renova being? Like, where would you like to be a year from now?
Right. So a year from now, hopefully, so we're starting to reach out to partners very soon. Hopefully, we're going to have partners on our wait list. So then when we launch, they're going to be able to be fully integrated. But in a year from now, hopefully, we're going to have partners from each of our individual universities. So we have founders from the University at Buffalo, University of Maryland, and UF, of course. So hopefully we're going to have individual partners on each one of those campuses or around that area. And then hopefully that the whole API is going to be, fully done, and it's going to look good. It's going to have a good user experience by then. But I'd say, like, numbers wise, because we haven't started the partner search yet, we don't know exactly how it's going to go. So we don't know what to even estimate. We want to try to reach, like I said, like at least like 10 partners at each geographical location, but we don't know how that number is going to actually come out to.
Do you think having founders at different universities like that plays to your advantage because you can reach a wider range? Or do you think in hindsight it would have been more beneficial if all the founders were in one place, so you can kind of, congregate and really try to just attack one area?
Right. So we all know each other from home.
Okay.
I'm originally from New Jersey, so whenever we go back to New Jersey, we meet up in person, and it's definitely more productive.
Yeah.
It's very hard to manage things on Zoom and through the internet. It's like it just doesn't work super well. But the way that we decided to do it is that we do a lot of like asynchronous work, in the
Right.
sense that we just come together to talk about tasks instead of like working at the same time. That's only for like important decisions, but we have a lot of like work to do on the side that
Right.
each person does individually.
No,
So
totally.
there is an advantage to it though, where each university has different like programs for entrepreneurs and different competitions that we can enter to win some sort of grants, which does help a lot because
Right.
it kind of like, gives us more opportunities in that regard. But it definitely can be challenging sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, speaking from experience, my co-founder for Perch lives in Boston right now, so
Wow,
I
yeah.
definitely understand
Yeah.
the
It's a struggle sometimes.
yeah, totally. So I meant to ask this toward the beginning, but knowing now that you guys, I didn't realize you guys were hometown friends.
Right.
How did the concept and the idea of Renova come up? I mean, were you guys kind of just sitting around shooting ideas at each other and eventually something clicked?
Yeah, so the original founder is actually the one that had the idea. His name is Nathan. I talked about him before. He's a really smart guy. Me and him have been like childhood friends since like I couldn't even speak. Like our parents knew each other, so they grew up together. So me and him go way back. But he his mom is an interior designer, so he's seen this from a third person perspective, the interior design market, his whole life, and he's seen like challenges that people have in envisioning how products are going to look like in their house. And he's definitely had the frustration of his mom having him move around his entire living room and then it not looking good and then moving it back to the way that it was because it's hard to envision how things look like.
Totally.
So he's the one that had that idea in the beginning, and then he brought on the two developers, and then eventually me, and he like, so he's the one that thought of it in the beginning, and then we kind of went through a lot of changes, just because the more people we bring on board, the more opinions that people have, and
Totally.
I think that it's really a good thing at the end of the day. And the more that those people talk to other people, you just have more and more ideas of how to make this something that actually works.
So then I'll ask, because you weren't the founder of the initial idea, what sparked the interest for it? Was it, he told you that he was working on this startup and it sounded interesting to you and you wanted to get involved? Or
Right.
did you find passion for it outside of it and then just realize your interest aligned?
Right. So he actually told me about this a year ago. Yeah, last summer, not this summer, last summer. And he was just telling me about this idea, and he showed me the technology, and I just thought it was a great idea. And there was like a lot of room for improvement in this industry. Where I did some research on my own, and I saw it's like it could be a very antiquated industry in a way, right? There's a lot of like stores that are that their e-commerce platforms just are not that great, and a lot of like huge players that just have a majority of the market share, and there's a lot of room for these small furniture shops to sell their beautiful furniture because a lot of them have like very unique pieces.
Right.
So we kind of wanted to. I like the idea of bringing creativity to a wider audience, and I really like the technology. So it was something that really sparked my interest in that way.
So on the technology side, have you guys either started exploring or maybe you're actively implementing how AI can help this space specifically?
Right. There's this. It's really funny because I feel like whenever I tell somebody the idea of Renova, they always go on TikTok, they scroll on TikTok, and they see this AI remodeling tool, which is like very different than what we do, but it's very interesting. But I feel like this is literally something that happens every single time I tell somebody about Renova.
Right.
It's this app that lets you like take a picture of a living room or something, and you tell it, can you make this a certain theme? Can you add if you take a picture of your backyard, can you add a pool? And it just shows you how it looks.
Right.
That's wonderful. It's much more of like a creative tool than like an actual than a tool to connect businesses with users. So it's very different, but that is something that's actually very interesting because AI can make really great suggestions.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and in recent years, it's gotten a lot better at it, where AI can actually make good creative decisions sometimes.
Right.
And we saw that with like the art that AI makes, which is, in my opinion, like really, really great sometimes.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to. We haven't explored it yet, but we definitely want to see how AI can be used to help make recommendations.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely think there would be an opportunity for that. Could be cool to be able to scan a bunch of different pieces, or items of furniture, and just purely let AI fully generate a room,
Right, right,
and have the ability to just constantly reshuffle, reshuffle,
right.
reshuffle until you find maybe the layout that you weren't expecting, rather than physically moving the stuff.
Exactly, exactly. And we wanted to implement this in a different sense, where this is where the community aspect comes in. Once we build some sort of like loyal user base where they would have the app. By loyal, I mean they would have the app on their phone. We want to kind of create a feature that lets you input like the dimensions of a room and see how other people's rooms look like with the same layout. So
Right.
like for example, I want to have a living room this big. How is their layout looking like? And then see maybe if that's something that you like, you can try it yourself and kind of get inspired by that.
So, for people listening to this, like, what is one maybe connection, resource, whatever? What is one thing that could really help Renova go from A to Z significantly faster?
That's a great question. I think that to bring us to really the next level is to find partners that are very willing to work with us. That means that like working with partners, working with partners that are willing to sit down and actually listen and give us feedback and listen to what we have to say, and that's something that we're willing to do too, and
Right.
really work on something that fits the market, because at the end of the day, we're still outsiders, right?
Right, totally.
We're not a small business furniture store. So we want to work with these small businesses, and we want to create something that really creates value for them. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's really to find these few key partners that are willing to work with us.
Right. And I mean, I'm guessing, because at the start, you said you kind of take the CFO/COO role.
Right.
Have you kind of put thought into how you're expecting to get these partners? Is it just going to be a lot of, cold calling and trying to sell these people?
Right.
Or,
Right. Yeah. So we built an Excel of like about 150 local furniture stores in the area. That means like the 1.5 hour radius from each of our locations.
Yeah.
And we just we just have a bunch of emails and a bunch of phone numbers. And later this month, we're going to start reaching out to them by email and then following up if we don't get a response.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said you guys have not started that.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
It's something that we definitely we have like a technical problem with our email where it just goes straight to spam.
Right.
So we're trying to like warm up our email, and that's if you know.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
It's a problem, but we're working on that. So as soon as that's done, we're going to start reaching out.
And when you do start reaching out, are you guys going to be taking, because I know you said you're going to start cheap. Have you considered literally just offering your services for free to partners?
Absolutely.
to get
Yeah.
To get positive use cases?
Yeah, we have our pricing model definitely wants to incorporate some sort of like trial.
Right.
And like our pricing model wants to do we want to do like a tier list per number of items. So like the smallest number of items we want to make for free. So like like a few items you could scan for free and see just how it looks like in your website, and then building up from there.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it definitely sounds super interesting, and I'm definitely excited to see where it kind of goes, especially in the next year.
Yeah.
I'm sure the people that are here have questions, so I would love to open it up to questions from the audience if we have any. Guang?
What year
I'm a sophomore.
have you found a community of other founders that you can connect with while you're here? All the other founders are not here?
Yeah, so like at UF, I've been in the hatchery. I haven't been super active because I just haven't had time to go to the actual meetings. But definitely like using the resources there. When I did go to the hatchery meetings, it was super helpful. We had a lot of like problem solving sessions of like just sitting around and just talking about each problem, and even if it's each founder's problem, and talking about other founders' problems and difficulties helps you kind of solve them in retrospect, or like help you solve problems in the future that you're gonna have in your own business. So it's definitely been really helpful, but also using like the resources that the hatchery has been really helpful.
Cool.
So how much collaboration, if any, have you done with like independent furniture designers themselves, and maybe even using the service that you have to kind of bridge them to a store they could sell their designs to?
Right. We found that we haven't done that yet. We found that the problem with working with, I would call them artists in creating furniture, is that the scan that we create is not the best quality scan, and a lot of times they would rather invest, an extra $1,000 to create like a really nice scan of their furniture. We really want to like democratize it in the sense that like we want to give everybody the opportunity to create 3D models. We see like huge we found statistics that show huge conversion rate increases, order size increases. So it's just like it's something that's easy to sell in that sense, and we do it for very cheap. But when it comes to artists, they're not a lot of times they're not necessarily focused on the cheapest way possible. And we're not the cheapest way possible, but we're cheap and not the best quality as you could get in investing another $1,000.
Right. And that's the difference between the artist and the distributor.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you major in?
I'm in finance.
You're in finance.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a business major.
Yeah.
Okay.
Business.
And your, so if I said based on what I was hearing, your, say moat is the technology for your business.
It's not only it's I would say more the technology and the implementation. So for example, it's the connection with the API and the technology and the easy to use app. It's really just right. It's something that is and the cheap price also. So it's something that's already right. There's already businesses that create 3D models of furniture. Just we do it in the best way for the cheapest possible and the easiest to use.
Okay, so the less friction.
Yeah, exactly. And for small businesses, it's like it could be very scary to look at technology because it's hard to use. It's very hard to like. It could be very hard and challenging to use raw technology. So we want to create something that just integrates it all together to create the least friction possible.
Okay, so it sounds to me like, and I don't know if you know their story, but you're in this space. You're trying to be square for.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting comparison. Definitely something very similar in the sense that we want to create something easy to use, just like Square does.
Okay. Another thing too, but I wasn't sure on the connection when you were saying the founders on different campuses, but what I was thinking while listening to you was, could you market this to like the student space, especially since you're already in school? So for example, whether it's freshmen or anybody's like, hey, I'm either coming to a dorm or an apartment.
Yeah.
Your parents were ever trying to shop for furniture, what's going to best fit? What should I buy to fit in my room?
That's a very good point, and it's very true because we had a pitch competition at University of Buffalo. And we actually pitched Renova. This was like earlier on, like last year. So we pitched Renova as a service to help students first move into their dorm. So it's like, dorms are very compact, small spaces. There's very little room for air. And our app lets you scan your room with a 1 to 3 centimeter margin of error, which is almost nothing. So, and very quickly. So that's definitely something we want to work on. The problem was, again, that we wouldn't have had the furniture to market in the first place, and that's why we're starting to work with small businesses first. Something we're definitely going to work on in the future.
Okay. The final your discussion on AI. Which kind of add on to that, and what you want to kind of future, what you want to do with the marketplace, because we're talking about the TikTok app.
Right.
Does that?
Right.
I guess what I was thinking about is I can use my phone device, something where I say I have a stand in my room, and just say based on the dimensions of my room, find me I'll just say chair with these specs within this price point,
Right.
and recommend 2 or 3 chairs to buy,
Right. Right.
so that they can see like, oh, okay, this one, and then you get a cut of the purchase depending on if they buy from a particular vendor or not.
Right. So we actually did like a kind of like a research project, like a small research project on this, and we looked at filters that huge furniture makers use or give the option of buyers to use when they're searching for a product. And we saw that, for example, IKEA has just like hundreds of different categories and different things that people can check off to find exactly what they need. So that's something that like AI can definitely help with, because sifting through 100 different categories and looking at exactly what you want to fit in, it's very hard to do. And at that point, like, you might as well just look through everything. So we would definitely want to try to use AI to make better recommendations. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Where do you see the product in 3-year time frame?
Definitely the main aspect is community. We want to create a community surrounded around interior design and inspiring each other, kind of like a Pinterest in a way, where people are able to browse different rooms that are similar to their layout, and then kind of see how their layout is and copy each other, copy and see how what best is going to fit into their house.
How do you prioritize what to tackle?
We lay everything out first. So we lay out a timeline, which is, I think, the most important thing for us was to lay out a timeline. Before we did that, it was very difficult to prioritize a very specific timeline of where we want to see each other, where we want to see the product being every week, every month. And then break that down to specific, very small tasks, and prioritize it based on mainly our partner outreach. So we want to prioritize pushing the product into the public as much as possible. So building out those features, building out those features first to be able to be marketed towards the public.
So my question is more about from a product decision standpoint, right? Is there a founder that's exclusively responsible for the product decisions within the team?
For the technical product decisions?
Well, so you mentioned there's the partnership, right, with the small businesses,
right,
and then you mentioned about Pinterest. That in itself is another product, right? Because now you're creating a platform,
right?
To be able, vaguely speaking, there are product decisions about your platform, right?
Right.
So you're the CFO,
right?
The tech person. I guess what I'm asking is, how do you guys overcome the fact that you bootstrap and you're resource starved, and how do you manage on the one side the ambition of wanting to do all these things, and then the other side, just do what you currently have, right?
Right. So I think when you prioritize that, it's very, we're definitely pulled in a lot of different directions, because there's some of us are much more ambitious in the sense that we dream way bigger than the other co-founders. So we kind of try to like meet in the middle somewhere, because it's like I said in the beginning, like it's very easy for a founder to dream too big, and in the sense that like, okay, I want to change this entire industry, I want to do this huge community aspect, and it's very important for the rest of the team to kind of pull them down to reality and say, okay, this is the only way to do it is to tackle this problem first and to approach this market first. So we definitely, as a team, it's very important to recognize when someone is a little bit, a little bit too ambitious, and then, try to make something a little bit more attainable.
So maybe to resolve that conflict, right? The ambition versus the feasibility of tackling certain things, right?
Right.
Go back to JJ's question. Are you guys currently bootstrapping right now, or you're funding somehow?
So we're definitely using our own funding. We're definitely giving some. We're using some of our own money, and then we also received like a small grant from the university. Through a competition that we entered. So we're using that as well as our own funding to, we haven't raised anything now.
So from your timeline, is that something that you feel that will help unlock a lot of this stuff, or you're just really being cautious right now because you're a student and help you understand that?
Yeah. From a finance perspective, it's very enticing to want to fundraise, just because I've been listening onto that space a lot, and I see how it changes companies, sometimes in a very positive way, but it has some negative downsides. So we definitely do want to fundraise in the future, but we have to have some sort of we have to show product market fit. So we're bootstrapping until we show that. That just gives so much more value to our business.
So I appreciate that. So what I'm hearing is that you're still trying to find product market fit.
Yes, absolutely. And that's our main thing. This is like the main thing that it's going to take Renova to the next level, is to find a partner that helps us do that. Is to find a partner that's going to help us sit down and talk about exactly what their needs are, and then build a product around their vision and around a lot of our different partners' vision, and be able to provide something that they actually need. Because for us, it might seem like it's definitely needed and it gives a lot of benefits, in increasing conversion rates and on all of that. But as a small business, we want to build something that fits them. It's like that's, I think, something that's the most important before anything else.
So you're 1 or 2 years into this business?
We're a year and 6 months about.
So what is product market fit for you?
Product market, what do you mean by that?
So how do you know that you achieve product market fit?
It's when partners is when partners accept or want to purchase our services. Yeah. And sorry, another thing to add to that is actually not only that, but on the user side is to see how this improves users' interaction with the small business.
There's no other question. So on that same thread,
I will add, I do think, especially in an early stage, it's tougher to know exactly what product market fit looks like, because typically, especially in the early stages, there's still pivots that haven't happened yet that you don't even know about. Need to happen in order to gain the traction that would then, I guess, deem you product market fit. So I definitely think it's tough to specifically say, when we hit this benchmark, we'll know.
Right. It's it is vague. Yeah, it is vague.
So what I'm alluding to, maybe a suggestion, right? And I think we touched on it before. Leverage the fact that you're a student, right? Right now, as you see, there's a lot of student housing popping up.
Right.
They try to differentiate themselves, right? I imagine one of the differentiations, you come in and you get to really see what your room could be, and that's an upsell, right?
Right.
And I believe that maybe that's not your initial target, but that target can solve the other side, right?
Right.
Where imagine you come to a small furniture and say, hey, I have 10,000 students actively using this.
Right.
And I have these partners that can now take me to other campuses that is independent of you needing to have this relationship, right?
Right.
So I just feel like as a student, that's like a superpower.
Right.
Where you get to really play on the fact that, hey, I'm a student, I'm building this, and I believe that I can benefit because I'm a student, I'm the potential resident, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm alluding to, that product market fit doesn't have to necessarily be very specific, but it's one of those that allows you to hit the next milestone.
Right. Like you talked about the student housing. What's interesting about that is that the problem with the whole space is that a lot of companies have a significantly higher budget than others, which lets them create better 3D models of everything, and like we just can't compete with that because we're trying to work with students, people that don't want to spend money on interior designers, like so much money on interior designers, and businesses that don't want to spend thousands of dollars on scanning their products. So we just there's definitely a niche, and that's definitely a part of finding product market fit, is finding the niche of between these small businesses that have the capabilities of using of implementing some sort of API on their website, and where they're not too big, where they want to go with the more expensive equipment.
Just one last on that same thread. So to your point, right? What you're noticing now, especially with UF, there's like these sort of luxury housing, right? It's
Yeah,
like water, hub.
absolutely, yeah.
So I'm speaking from experience because we work with hub. There seems to be that trend that catering towards the luxury, however you want to define it. And I do believe that what you guys are building is unique enough to where, at the very least, it's a good PR story before you and them, and you're able to accomplish certain things, right?
Honestly, it might be, and we need to reach out to them. Like Hub is like a huge company, right? They have buildings everywhere. But maybe if there's something a little bit smaller that we could reach out to, just to kind of like maybe make it to the newspaper about some sort of, or not a newspaper, like some sort of like story about working together. That could be really interesting. We do have to explore that.
On that though, I would, part of your marketing sales, you should reach out to some of the bigger interior designers. A lot of other businesses have piggybacked up. So let's just say I'm an accountant and I'm looking for clients. A lot of times people go to a CPA firm and just say, hey, you have the overflow, like they're too small for us to handle, but we can refer them to you.
Right.
Vice versa, there's probably design shops that they get approached by, let's say smaller, whether it's furniture or clients, that they're just like, we're too big for you, but you may be able to. So there could be a source of, like a potential source.
So when we build like a fully working product, maybe it would be good to partner with a big firm that's kind of that we would both have benefit some way, maybe revenue share or something like that, of just pointing customers in each direction. Yeah, that's a good point.
Cool. Yeah, if there's no other questions, then we'll wrap it up. Guy, thank you so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening.